Of course, one of the big transfers we knew that was happening before the summer started, Endrick making that move from Brazil to Real Madrid. Here comes the Endrick era starts, as the front page of AS. Mario is still with us. Mario, I want to start with you, because obviously you started your career young as a teenager, going to play for Ajax. And we also know, we learned throughout the show over the years, that your mum is quite the force. Not anyone to mess with, and she's someone who offers up good advice. What did she tell you as a teenager when you were going into that Ajax squad? What did she say, that sort of advice, that maybe would carry over to Endrick?
It was like, you know, I think debut-wise, I think that's probably the similarities. When I walked on the field, when I was 19, kind of like, it's actually interesting that you asked me that. I walked on the field at Ajax and there was 60,000 people in the stadium. I was a kid, I was still at school, I come on the field, my heart was beating like crazy. I'm not gonna lie to you. No one could tell you like, oh, it was just a walk in the park. No, there was no walk in the park. My heart was beating like crazy, but one thing she said to me, when you walk on the field, and I know that's gonna happen, you say to yourself, this is what you always wanted. So when I walked on the field, it went exactly like that. Heart was beating like crazy. When I looked around, 60,000 people, I said, this is what you always wanted. And I carried the game. It was only against AC Milan, but I was nervous as crazy, and Milan was incredibly good because there was like one of those dream teams when you were a young boy you were watching. So yeah, I played my debut against Milan, but I still was like, I could handle the nerves after a while. And I played against Joas Weah. And if you are familiar with Joas Weah at that time, woo, it wasn't easy. He just did one move on me. I'm going to tell you one move he did on me. He just did the move like this, and the ball bounced right over my head. It was a good debut. I was nervous as crazy. But I got back in the game, so eventually I handled it well. But my debut, I tell you, that's why you know, sometimes you come on and tell you then, you look sometimes too long at the players you play against. That's the mistake you should never make. Don't admire anybody around you because you're going to get caught. And that happened to me when I watched Josué.
How quickly did you get over that, Mario? Because obviously you're going to just either be just starstruck on the pitch otherwise.
Yeah, you hear the crowd go like, woo, 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 and you're like, okay, I'm doing something really bad. I better handle myself and recoup myself. So I recouped myself, and you know, I looked and I saw Maldini, Baresi. I said, no, get your head right and start playing. And then that's what I did.
How old were you when you went from Ayr to Liverpool?
19.
Wow. Yeah. Imagine 19-year-old Steve. What
a
God! What a
Stevie!
Made a few mistakes.
Was there any advice that anyone gave you in particular that would carry over to someone like Endrick at 18 going into such a big environment?
Well, yes, but I think Endrick's different. You know, I remember one of my first games at Ayr United. One of the coaches who coached the young team, or coached the younger players. As I was walking out, I think it was my second game, it was a midweek game. And he just, as I walked past him, he said, just remember something. So I'm like that, and he went, you're every bit as good as them. And that was it. And
wow.
I just always remembered that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're every bit as good as them. Now, having watched Endrick in the Copa, I don't think this guy struggles for confidence.
Sure.
You know, and if you think about it, all the other young players that Real Madrid have brought from Brazil, they all just seem to hit the ground running would be the wrong thing to say, but in terms of being overawed or it being too much,
they embrace it.
Seem to be. They just seem to take it in their stride. As soon as they come, they're ready for it, regardless of whether it's Real Madrid or anywhere else. They all just have this mentality that I'm supposed to be here and I am as good as everybody else.
And it's almost off the pitch where maybe they need to be more careful, because I was at Real Madrid 2015, Robinho, heralded as the man coming over the next Pele, and we saw flashes, but what was going on off the pitch, the partying and everything that he was associated with kind of dragged him down, obviously ended up at Manchester City.
Always the way, young players and kind of leaving their home countries and maybe smaller towns and coming to the bright lights of Madrid and everything that Real has to offer in terms of temptation, and that's a difficult transition.
Right.
But for somebody that young, I mean, no, not for 19-year-old Stevie, he took it seamlessly. But for somebody that young, that's a tough ask.
Yeah.
Because you can get caught up really easily. And then within dressing rooms, the other aspect of this is within dressing rooms, you have players who are used to it. You have players who can handle that spotlight, who can handle everything that comes with it, who, you know, just deal with it seamlessly, and you think you have to be a part of whatever they're doing.
You're trying to keep up with them.
Exactly, in every single regard. Not maybe recognizing some of the other things that these players are doing when you aren't watching, that they're going and training or doing whatever else extra on top. And I think that's one of the things that catches so many young players out, young talents out, because it's tough. And Craig said something a couple of days ago.
He's on holiday.
Yeah, no, but I thought it was spot on, and not to make it, you know, kind of trivial, but the easy part is getting into the team. You know, it's really difficult to then stay there and be a part of it. So, you know, getting into Real Madrid is not easy by any measure, but that's the easy part for everything else for the rest of your career. As long as he understands that, somebody helps him to recognize that, I think it'll be all right.
When you're young, the easy bit is the training and the games.
Because that's the fun bit, yeah?
That's the fun bit. That's what you're doing what you do naturally.
Right.
The problem is when you're young, you don't understand that what you do off the field does affect what happens on the field. You don't get that bit until you're a little bit longer in the tooth. And so if you get that bit wrong, for a young guy to figure out why things are not working out is really difficult. Because you just don't know.
Right.
Because you don't have experience.
What was it like for you? Because, so, Shaq, you went from college to Reading.
Yeah.
You're here in college. So that must have been, like, as Steve said, the training must have been fine.
Yeah.
The games, but then everything around it must have been like, what the heck's going on?
It was a slightly different dynamic because I'm at Reading on trial.
Right.
And nobody's saying anything to me. I'm just there on trial. The only thing I have
Where are you, like, living and things?
So we were staying on this big compound. A gentleman by the name of Martin Dina had this huge compound that housed the Reading training ground, and he just had all these kind of townhouses just there.
Okay.
Empty. So I was just kind of staying there, and the club would give me something like £100 a week or something just for food. The only thing that was kind of encouraging to me is that there were other trialists kind of coming and going, and I was just there. But nobody was saying anything to me. And then all of a sudden, one day we are away to West Brom. So this is, by today's rankings, League One. We're away to West Brom. Ozzy Ardiles is coaching. They're top of the table. And we're in the pre-game meeting, and Mark McGee calls my name. I had no idea.
Wow.
No idea it was coming. And then, but again, you know, just to put things in perspective, again, this was League One.
Yeah, but still.
I'm on £400 a week. It's not exactly Madrid.
No, I understand that, but I think it's still interesting.
Yeah. Oh no. I'm just
no
saying.
one's putting you on the Endrick.
No. Yeah. I'm not. I'm just making the point. I'm just making the point that
no one's doing it.
I'm not having to deal with what Endrick may have to deal with. That was the furthest thing away from.
Was it better that you didn't know?
Yeah.
Right.
In hindsight, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden, that 2 or 3 hours or whatever it is to kick off is a total blur.
Right.
But it's 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
It's not 24, 48 hours.
Yeah.
So, you could cope with that. And then, as I'm sure Mario and Steve will tell you, for all the build-up, once you get on the pitch and once the whistle goes, that's when you're at home.
Wow.
You can be nervous, you can feel, you can go through any host of emotions.
But do you think that's unique to you guys? Because I put myself in that situation, and I can't comprehend being on the pitch and just enjoying it, as opposed to just completely and being a wreck.
The build-up is the hard part. The build-up to the game is the hard part. Once you whistle, because now you're doing what you're trained to do.
Right.
You're standing there. You know what your position is. You've been doing this all your life. It's the kind of build-up. I'm thinking, oh, good, look how big the stadium is.
I see.
Look at how many people there are there. But then
almost in your comfort zone.
Yeah, that is the really. Once the whistle goes, now all of a sudden, like, yeah, this is home, so to speak.
Do you know when you watch documentaries and they'll follow one player, and when you're watching it, it's just all you can see is legs and arms and heads and people running around.
Yeah.
That's what you see on the field early on. You don't even know the crowd's there. You don't even notice the crowd.
Right.
Because you're concentrating on what you're doing, and that's the only thing that you focus on. Nothing else matters.
Mario, how was the move then to London? Obviously, you got that move early in your career going to Chelsea. We talk about, obviously, what's going on the pitch, the training and stuff. It takes hairs of itself. What was it like off the pitch for you as a youngster in a capital city?
Yeah, no, definitely. You know, coming from Amsterdam, and I was 21 at that time. So I thought, like, you know, like what Stevie said, 19-year-old, I had the same journey. And I think, oh, this is already big. And then you come there, 21. The first thing they did, they picked me up at the airport and they drove me over the King's Road. And they did it on purpose because they wanted to sell London even better to me. So I went over the King's Road. I was like, wow, this is really interesting. Then I go to the club and then, okay, the game starts playing. At training, I didn't feel out of place because I felt like, you know, like especially because I had 8 months. I think I broke my foot twice in the first season when I signed. But then when I came back in the team, the only difference was what I said it before. I opened the dressing room the first day when I come to training, and they were all World Cup winners, including Mr. LeBeuf. And there was Desailly there, and Didier Deschamps was in the dressing room. You know, Didier Deschamps was there, Desailly was there. So I was in the dressing room. It was kind of new as a young boy, and a young boy that grew up watching them play, of course, and winning it. So then you're like, wow, okay, the pressure was on. But what I had is that I had so much drive and belief that Ajax gave me, you understand, in the sense of like, they were a talented team at that time. So I felt like I had enough in me to at least compete with them. I'm not saying I was as good as them, but compete with them. And that feeling helped me in going into the stadium. So going into the stadium, they said to me straight away, do why we brought you to this club. Defend the way we want you to defend and attack the way you know how to attack. And in about 10 minutes, the crowd started really cheering for me. And that was the best moment ever as a footballer, I think. When they really love you straight away from the start.